Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Unstoppable Dad Project. Appreciate you joining me here for another week. And I am back for another solo episode this week. Hope you've been enjoying the interviews that we've been releasing. We've got plenty more to send out. And if you enjoy the interviews and you know of somebody who would like to be a guest on the podcast, please just drop me a message on social media. So at the Unstoppable Dad on Instagram or the Unstoppable Dad Project on Facebook. If you're one of those people that would like to be on the podcast, please reach out. I'm more than happy to have almost anybody on the podcast who is a parent who has maybe a particular field of expertise, or maybe you don't. Maybe there is something that you have had to overcome in your life that you think the audience that listens to this might be able to get some value from, or you've got an inspiring story to tell. And I'm wanting to share that with everybody who listens to the podcast. But even if you don't want to, if you've got any suggestions around guests, maybe you don't know them, maybe there's somebody that you think would be good for me to have a conversation with, reach out, send me a message, and always, send me any feedback that you've got around the podcast, around the episodes, or around topics or suggestions that you'd like me to cover off on these solo episodes. So with today, what I wanted to go through, and the title of the podcast is "The Job is to Inspire Confidence." And the reason it's that is I believe that our job as parents, or one of our job, many jobs as parents, is to inspire confidence in our children. And when I talk about confidence, what do I mean by that? Because yes, there is a dictionary definition of confidence, but for me, building confident kids is to essentially give them the ability to take on anything, and to give them the confidence that they can try and they can fail and they can come back and they can keep moving. And that for me is to give my kids confidence. That's part of the job as a father, as a parent, and just to try and build resilient human beings within my children. Now, in order to do that, we have to put them in situations where there is the potential of them failing, which almost goes against our natural instinct as parents, where we are meant to protect them, we are meant to shelter them, and maybe we're meant to not let them fail as much as maybe let me rephrase that. We want to not have them fail at all, but we need to have them fail in order to learn how to overcome that. And the reason I wanted to go through this is because one of the questions I've been asking a lot of the guests that have been coming onto the podcast is, give me a memory, or tell me one thing, one moment that you've had which is a highlight as a parent. Now, it is I can say from firsthand experience, and I'm sure if you're listening to this and you are a parent, you can say, like, it is hard to nail it down to one time or one instance or one thing, because there are many things that are absolutely great and wonderful about being a parent. But when I ask that question and the guests think about it, a lot of the guests are coming back to me with times that their kids have overcome some form of challenge. They have got to the other side of that and they have been triumphant. And it's very interesting to me that as a parent, looking at your kid doing something and having to overcome a tough task and coming to the other side of it, that for a lot of parents that are further along in the journey than what I am, their kids are grown up. Maybe they're not even grown up, but for a lot of them, it comes back to watching their kid being able to overcome failure. So it is almost not overcome failure, but overcome a tough situation. But in order for them to overcome that tough situation, we have to put them in that situation and give them the opportunity to overcome that, which means that they potentially have the opportunity to fail as well. So even though it is our natural want to protect them and maybe to not let them fail, these parents are telling me that this is a highlight for them, seeing their kid overcome that. So it's a very interesting dichotomy there, because you can't have one if we can't have that overcoming of failure if we haven't put them in the situation where they can potentially fail in the first place. And one of the things when it comes to building confidence in anything is really trying to follow through on your word, giving yourself this track history that if you set out to do something, you are going to follow through with it, which is that is going to give us the confidence to continue to take risks, to continue to push forward and continue to try new things and put ourselves in those positions where not only are we going to have the opportunity to fail, but we also have the opportunity to succeed, because they come hand in hand with each other from what I've seen and what I've experienced throughout life. Failure and success, even though they're on the opposite ends of the spectrum, you have to be willing to fail in order to have that success. So when it comes to inspiring confidence in our kids, we have to be willing to put them in situations where they are going to fail. Now, obviously, when they're younger, one of the ways to try and inspire and build confidence, we don't want to put them in situations where they're going to experience a catastrophic failure, where they're going to maybe hurt themselves in an extreme way. We want to try and put them in situations where, yes, there is the chance of failure, because when they do fail, they are going to have to overcome that. And then it is our job as parents, I feel, to not shield them from that, but help teach them how to navigate that in a healthy way. And what do we do when we fail? How do we look at the situation and how do we address the situation? And then how do we get back to it? How do we not let it ruin our life and bleed into every other thing that has happened? Because failure is always going to be a part of life. It is going to be a reoccurring theme that is going to come up, especially as you get older, and especially when you move away from home and you are on your own, per se. I like to tell our kids, because our daughter is starting to get to the point where she's asking a few questions like, what's going to happen when I move out of, like, even though she's only 9, she's thinking about these things. Like, she's quite a, for lack of a better term, I'd say she's quite an old soul. She likes to think about things on a deeper level, and she's asking questions about, this and that, and when she gets older and all of that. And one of the things I have said to her is, don't be too quick to grow up. Like, be a kid, enjoy being a kid and enjoy your childhood. And we're here to make sure that you do enjoy it. But when you get to that point, we will still always be here to help and support you. But then in the back of my head, there is a little voice that says, at some point, I'm not going to be here to help and support her. And as morbid as that sounds, Father Time always catches up with all of us. At some point, we are not going to be here to support our kids, and they are going to be left to navigate this world on their own. And our job as parents, and I've heard a saying, and I'm going to paraphrase this and potentially butcher it, but the job of a father is to prepare the son for when he's no longer here. And that saying is always something that sits in the back of my mind, as morbid as it is, but it works as a little bit of a driver for me, because I don't want to see my kids fail. But then I understand, in order for them to build confidence and build resilience, I have to be prepared to let them go through that by themselves and work it out, and be there to guide them, but not do it for them as they go through those tough situations and they go through those failures. Because one day, when it comes to the point where I'm not going to be there, whether it is that I'm no longer on this earth, or it means that I'm just not present in the situation that they're going through, if I haven't taken the steps to inspire confidence in them to be able to overcome that failure or overcome this obstacle that they are faced with, then I haven't done my job as a father. I haven't done my job as a leader in my family. I haven't done my job as a provider, because providing, I feel, is more than just, it is still putting a roof over their head, putting food on the table. That is all part of providing, but you're also providing guidance and life skills to your children that are hopefully going to serve them later on in life. And that stuff will stay with them. The resilience and the confidence, you have to be able to work with them and inspire confidence in them, because the only way they are going to be confident is to have the faith in themselves that they are going to be able to do hard things and they are going to be able to overcome them. And a lot of that too, and I talk about this a lot on the podcast, is leading by example, letting them see you do hard things and overcome hard things, letting them see you be confident in tough situations, letting them see you follow through on your word. One of the things with confidence as it pertains to us as men and just everybody in general that I've observed over the years is confidence is directly linked to your ability to follow through on your word and do what you say you are going to do. Because if you don't follow through on what you say you're going to do, it is going to eat away at your self-confidence, and that is going to filter into other areas of your life. You're not going to take on that hard thing. You're not going to go and do that hard task that you set out to do. You're probably not going to put in the extra hour to build the business that you want to build, when you're a little bit tired. And yes, life is to be enjoyed, absolutely. And there are times when we need to take the foot off the gas. We need to appreciate what we've got. But there are also going to be times as you move through that you need to knuckle down and you need to do some hard stuff, because if you don't go through those times, you may find that you get to the end of the timeline that you're on and you feel a lot of regret about not taking the chance, not doing those hard things. And then in turn, and this is maybe going to feel like a guilt trip, which sometimes we need. And yes, absolutely. I did a podcast yesterday with a gentleman here locally, and we spoke about, like, we've got to give ourselves credit. 100% believe that. But this is the spectrum that we act on from a mental health point of view, from just a life point of view, right? Like, it's a spectrum, and we're never always going to be in one state or the other. We're going to move backwards and forwards on that spectrum based off the situation that we're presented with. And we need to be a little bit objective about that and understand where we're at, so we can approach whatever we're faced with the appropriate level of potentially grit and determination, or the appropriate level of compassion for ourselves. But digressing a little bit, if we don't follow through on what we've set out to do, that's going to eat away at our confidence, and that's going to filter onto our kids. And for a lot of us, we don't want that. We want to raise confident, resilient kids. We want to raise these kids that as they grow up, they're going to take on and they're going to do hard things. And when they fail at those things, they're not going to get buried by them. They're going to be able to, yes, they're still going to get upset. They're going to cry when they lose the soccer match. Like, it's going to get to them. It's it's okay to lose, right? And it's okay to want to win in that situation. I'm a big believer in that. Like, it's okay to want to win. But if you lose, assess what happened, look at the whole picture. Is there something I can do better? Do I need to maybe go back to the drawing board and work harder? Do I need to practice a little bit more? What do I need to do? And then get to work on that action to try and correct what needs to be corrected, so you can overcome it at the next hurdle. Like, and then we get back to work. We spend our time going through being upset, being okay with the emotions that we've got, but we don't let those emotions rule us. We accept them, we work through them, and then we get back to what we need to do. Like, that's confidence, that's resilience, and that stuff will filter into all other areas of life. And it won't just be something that those types of lessons aren't things that just, they may seem like lessons in the moment, but when they keep happening and those same lessons keep coming up in their life and they keep reoccurring, then all of a sudden they start to build this confidence that, you know what, like, yeah, this is tough, but I'll get through this. I'll get to the other side of it. It's going to be hard right now. And yeah, I'm feeling sad. I'm feeling frustrated. I'm feeling overwhelmed. And it's okay to feel that way. Like, I don't have to bottle it up, but let's deal with this. but let's get back to work and let's keep moving this thing forward. Let's keep driving forward. And I know that I will overcome this in some way, shape, or form, regardless of results. And I have that ability to take on anything. And I have that ability to overcome anything. And that is the inner voice that I want for my kids. I want them to be confident. I want them to think that they can do anything. Obviously, there's certain things, right? Like someone's going to probably hear this in isolation and go, "Oh, but they're not going to like." Yeah, I think everyone who's listened to this gets what I mean, right? Like, hey, I want to go and try and be a engineer, right? I'm going to try and do it. We'll find a path to go and do it. I want to try and run my own business. All right, let's do that. Understand that there's going to be work involved, but have the confidence that, hey, providing I do the work, things will work out in some way, shape, or form. Might not always be the way that I envisage that it's going to work out, but I have the confidence in myself that I can overcome this and I can work through this, and that as providing I do the work, we will get to a destination which is fulfilling to me and fulfilling to those that are important to me. And that's the inner voice that I want my kids to have. I want them to have the confidence in themselves that they can do anything, and they, as long as they stay true to themselves and they follow through on their word. And that's confidence, right? And that's it's very interesting to me that a lot of the people I ask that question, hey, give me one thing that is a highlight for you as a parent. And a lot of them come back to witnessing their children overcoming an obstacle, overcoming tough times. And it is such an interesting thing to me because, yes, our natural ability is to probably want to shield our kids from failure a little bit. It's tough watching them fail. It's tough watching them be upset because they didn't get a medal at a competition. Like that's a tough, and it's a tough conversation to have with them. Say, hey, we just weren't there. We just weren't good enough to win right now. But what do we need to do in order to get better? Hey, it's okay to be upset about losing. Yeah, we can go down the path of, and this is a podcast I've done an episode on before, and we can go down the path of, oh, like, you tried your hardest and this and that and everything else, but sometimes our hardest, like trying our hardest isn't good enough. And that's okay. Like it's okay that trying our hardest isn't good enough. And then it's okay to want to win, because we can use that as motivation to go back and work harder and take the steps that we need to in order to try and get better and get closer next time. And yes, there are a whole bunch of psychological things where we can focus on our own progress and not the progress of others. And when it comes to competition, there are a whole bunch of other factors that are outside of our control. But you can use that drive to want to win to achieve some very great things. And you can use that drive to want to win to inspire confidence so that they build resilience within their own mind and their own mindset, so that they're okay to go and take on and do hard things and overcome them. So that's it. Like our job, from my mind as parents, is to try and inspire confidence in our kids. It's one of the many jobs we have. It's not the only job, but it's one of the many jobs, because that, for me, is going to be one of the traits that they're going to have, which is going to serve them as they get later on in life, because life can be pretty tough at times. And if you don't have a little bit of resilience, a little bit of grit, a little bit of determination to work through some hard stuff, life's going to be a lot probably harder than it needs to be, than if we just sometimes just put our nose to the grindstone and get to work. So let me know what you think. Let me know. Send me a message, any parents out there, and let me know something that maybe you do consciously to try and build confidence within your kids. I'm really interested on some tips and tactics that different parents use, and maybe I can do another solo episode just sharing some of those as we go through. But thanks again for listening. Really appreciate all the support we get. Appreciate the positive messages that have been coming through since we've changed the format a little bit to an interview style. And again, Follow us on the social medias at The Unstoppable Dad on Instagram, The Unstoppable Dad Project on Facebook. I've been doing a pretty big push on YouTube as well too, trying to grow that. So The Unstoppable Dad Project on YouTube, jump on there, give us a subscribe, like a few videos, watch a few videos, and help kind of grow that side of things too, which is something that I've neglected over the last 3 years, but we're pushing hard to right now. So thanks so much for listening. I appreciate your time, and I'll see you next week. Goodbye.